So today we have Chris Smith from the US to talk about storytelling and how to tell your story in a very, very unique situation. And Chris is a specialist on telling stories. So Chris, please, it's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you very much for accepting the invitation. It's a pleasure to talk to you and learn from you. So glad you are here.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. And I have a methodology that we created that, we've been teaching now for years to entrepreneurs and organizations around how to powerfully and articulately tell your story in a way that really differentiates you and has you stand out. And I believe your story as an entrepreneur, as a business, is the most powerful thing you have to influence what we call your mission, your message, and your movement, to really create the kind of income and impact you're capable of and differentiate yourself. But you have to take a stand for it. You can't just go out and tell the same message that you've always been telling or tell the same message that everyone else is telling. And right now, Miguel, I believe that it's never been more important in the history of the world as an entrepreneur or a business to be telling your story, but to be telling a story that's very different than the story that most entrepreneurs and organizations are sharing right now. And we've been observing this and helping a lot of our clients navigate messaging right now and reinvent. And so one of the things all of our clients is whatever messaging you had prepared to send out prior to the coronavirus, ads that you had scheduled, emails you had scheduled, autoresponders, we're telling everyone turn those off, because whatever that content was, it's likely not relevant right now. There's a power and an opportunity to share relevant messaging right now. But what I see a lot of organizations and entrepreneurs doing right now, Miguel, is they kind of fall into one of two camps. One is they're not saying anything because they don't know what to say, which is a big risk. Or two, everything they say is the same thing everyone else is saying, which is a COVID-19 coronavirus update. And I do think that we have a responsibility to say something about the coronavirus, but look, people can go get updates and information around the coronavirus everywhere.
Yes.
I think now is the time to be telling the story of who we are and what we stand for. And what I'm encouraging all of our clients to do is tell their origin story or their founder story of how they got here, because I've never heard an origin story or a founder story, Miguel, that didn't involve a heavy amount of uncertainty and overcoming it.
Wow.
And right now, I think the world could benefit from stories of overcoming, right?
It's interesting what you're saying, that one of the things that made me more grounded and more feeling prepared and not feeling overwhelmed about the situation is coming back to my origin, to my mission, to my purpose, to what's important to me. And when I go back to that place and remember that, things gets kind of simpler and easier to deal with. Even the situation didn't change, but I changed it. So the way I deal with the news and the changes and the challenges changes, and it's way better. So it's very interesting you say that. Also, what I'm seeing on messages, like Facebook ads and email messages, they have two types of messages. One is just the automatic thing that they have already recorded or prepared, and then for me it's it became blind for me. I can't pay attention to that right now. So it's if I see somebody telling something on a video or sending an email there's nothing related to the current situation, I don't pay attention.
Sure.
And also at the other side, there's people you said, saying the same thing, and also sometimes they feel kind of lost and just repeating themselves. And one of the exercise I did very recently is this week was oh, I need to redo my value proposition, because with a new situation, my value proposition that worked yesterday maybe doesn't work today. So I need
Totally.
to review it on like a zero base budget or a zero base value proposition. And now you're talking about like telling your story. So it's very relatable and makes a lot of sense. But I want to come back to the thing about your way of telling stories. What's unique or different of the way you, because there's nowadays I think there's tons of specialists on storytelling and tons of books about storytelling. So I want to know your story about storytelling.
So, the joke I make, Miguel, is that when I started doing this years ago, no one was doing it. Like very few of us were doing it, and people were looking at us like, I'm not going to pay you to teach me how to tell my story. Like, you know,
you're the weirdo telling.
Totally.
Charges for telling stories.
Yeah. My dad was like, what are you doing for a living? You know? And organizations were like, yeah, storytelling, it's okay. It's not necessary. But now I tell people every day I wake up and 20 new story experts somehow were born overnight. They had never once ever taught story and are now, story messaging experts. And I believe it's because the world is waking up to this idea that we have become more connected globally as a society through technology, but yet more disconnected as authentic human beings. And people crave that connection and that authenticity more than ever. And the thing that makes us most unique, Miguel, is that we really, I can confidently say this, unless there's someone else out there that I know, that we're the only ones that take the approach on story that I know of. And we kind of created our own industry and our own category. And that is, we do not focus first on how to tell the story and how to position the story and how to market the story, where a lot of people around story and messaging, that's their focus, is how to position it, how to market it, how to tell it. Our methodology is built first and foremost around the clarity and the alignment of what are you actually trying to say first, and who are you saying it to? Because what we found, Miguel, is that most entrepreneurs and organizations don't have a story and messaging problem. They think they do. They don't have a story and messaging problem. They have a lack of clarity of what they stand for and who they serve problem. So if we can help an organization or an entrepreneur get absolutely clear on what it is they stand for, their authentic message and who it's for, well, then the how to tell it and how to position it, how to market becomes really easy. But see, this over here is confronting. This takes real work. Like, what are we trying to say? And what do we stand for? And what do we want to be known for? And like, what's the one thing that we're going to go all in on and be the best in the world at? What group of people are we going to serve and not chase every opportunity? See, that's confronting. Over here, though, how to message it, how to market it, how to position it, that's fun. That's exciting. So we do this deep work over here that's confronting that maybe a lot of people don't want to do, but that's what we're known for. And that's what makes us unique. So our approach to storytelling is more about alignment than just opportunity.
When you say like have your stand, take your stands, I remember like somebody asking me about that a few years ago, and I said like, oh, there's a lot of companies, like big companies, trying to have like a movement and standing for something, and they kind of sometimes they mess it up, and like they enter fights they don't want to fight, and like the question for me is like, what's the stand I'm willing to fight for?
Totally.
And for like a small business or something that's very related to your story and the purpose, I think it's easier to think about that. But I see a lot of people or a lot of companies that they're not willing to fight for anything. So they are like running away from fights. So yeah. And they become like kind of vanilla and doesn't have like any special taste.
Yeah, they're like,
how do you sell fight for something for like people that are like kind of use it to be a little cowards?
You know what's funny, Miguel, is like it's practicing what we preach, and one of the things that we preach is you never want to allow the market to create your message. You want your message to create your market. So what a lot of entrepreneurs and organizations do is they go out and they look at the market, they look at the opportunities, and then they back into a message that even isn't even authentic to them oftentimes, or it isn't even what they stand for. It's not even what they feel called to say, but they back into that message because that's the message they need to say to appeal to that market. And then they end up just like their message is just dictated by whatever market they're in front of. Whereas what we're encouraging entrepreneurs and organizations to do is take a stand for your message. Figure out what it is you feel called to do and what you feel called to say, and then boldly and confidently go out and say that. And then whatever market that creates from an interest, that's who you serve. Like, it takes a lot more faith to do it that way. And so we're the same way. Like, look, if you're an organization that doesn't believe in this already, I don't want to work with you. If you're an entrepreneur that doesn't believe in this already, I'm not going to convince you. So it's like, we only end up, which is great for us, we only end up working with organizations and entrepreneurs who already want to take a stand for their message. They want to take a stand for being known for something, right? But the organizations that look at story and messaging like, it's just a function of marketing and helps us grow market share and make more money, they're not going to be willing to do the deep confronting work. And one of the things that I think we've bought into this lie for some reason, Miguel, as entrepreneurs and organizations, is we think that our story and our message is for everyone. We think that our story and our message should be relevant to everyone. And it's like, no, your story and your message should attract some people and repel others.
Yes. And like I'm going to go to the other side right now. So it's like, I've done that to have like, to make my message, try to create my market. And the problem I face it is that my message creates a market of zero. No, like nobody bought my message, and how do you balance that? Because I totally understand. I'm for the message create the market, but the mistake I did is not like run away from the message or try to create a fake message to match the market, but they won't be able to sell anything. So how do you balance that?
So we talk about three things when it comes to story. What you're trying to say, which is the clarity, the alignment, like take a stand, like what is it you're really trying to say? But then there is this idea of how you say it, which is still important. I'm not trying to say that the how you say it isn't important. It's super important. But I believe it's only effective if it's built from the place of like what you're trying to say first. And so anytime I come across an entrepreneur that's like, I've gotten really clear what I stand for, I've gotten really clear what I want to be known for and what I'm willing to take a stand for, but yet I'm going out and saying it and it's not working. What we usually have there is like, we're just the way in which we're saying it and how we're delivering it is off. So
it's funny because like we are talking English and my audience is in Portuguese, and like we are like live streaming that, and most of the people are not understanding. So exactly what you are saying, maybe our what now is very, very powerful and interesting, but people that don't speak English can't understand it right now. So
so there is so many things that play on the how to say it.
Let's start speaking only Portuguese right now, okay?
I'm gonna. You guys, you won't even. You'll understand me even less if I try to start speaking Portuguese. So once someone is really clear on what it is they're trying to say, there is a lot of science, neuroscience, and how the brain works and how it processes and receives information that is important, and the order in which we tell stories. And what happens sometimes, Miguel, is we get so connected to our mission and our why and like what we're taking a stand for, but it's at such a high level that we then go try to say it at that high of a level, but it doesn't meet people where they're at. It meets people where we're at.
Yeah.
So we've got to translate it down to what I call street level language. It doesn't compromise us. Like, it's not like we're selling out or it's not like we're being, untrue to our message. So it's how do I get real clarity on what I stand for, but then how do I translate it in a way that meets people where they're at, where they can still like hear it and be like, oh, that makes sense. But sometimes we try to go out and share our mission and our stand in as big of glorious as way as we understand it. But people don't have that same context as us, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, yes. I remember meeting a friend on a barbecue festival like I don't know, last year or something like that. And then he asked me, like, he didn't know exactly what I did. And when I said what I did, he kind of turned off, like, stopped paying attention, like, wasn't excited at all. And I was like, oh, I was like, the very moment I was like, oh, I'm explaining in a very boring way, and it's not matching the way he understands the word,
Yeah.
or like.
So what's so fascinating about this, Miguel, if entrepreneurs and organizations could understand this, what most of us do is the way we tell our story and the way we share our message is from our context, which makes the listener have to do the work to come over to us and understand it from our perspective, which most of them won't. They've got too many other things to think about. We totally lose them. So the key is, how do we share the story and the message in a way that's like, hey, Miguel, or to your friend, it's like, look, you can stay over there. I'm going to come meet you where you're at. I'm going to share my story and my message from your perspective. Because if people have to do a lot of work to try and understand what there's not, like, they're too bombarded with other noise and other information. And so that is the real, to me, mastery of this, is getting clarity of what you stand for in the mission, and then understanding how to still say it, though, in a way that meets people where they're at. And it's easy for them to hear it, and it's easy for them to, like, take action on it. I think a lot of times people want to buy our product, or they want to buy our service, and the way in which we're telling the story is actually making it hard for them to do it.
Yes, yes. So the first thing is like the clarity about what's your stand. And the second is how you tell it, and how you translate that in street language.
Yep.
And the third is the who you're talking to.
So the who you're talking to is part of the what you're trying to say. So the what it is you're trying to say, and the who you're saying it to. Who's this for, right? So there's what you say, there's how you say it, and then the third part that we teach a lot, that I'm teaching more and more and more, especially in times like this, is who are you being when you say it?
Who are you?
Who are you being when you say it? And that's this idea of, like, are you really a demonstration of what you teach? Like, these things that you're out teaching, are you really living it and leading it? Like, and that's that piece of, like, no matter how good you are, no matter how clear you are on what you're saying, no matter how effective you are on the how to say it, if you're not actually being it, or people kind of, it's like question mark about you and, like, your authenticity, or are you real, that speaks louder than any of the words you use. But when what you're saying, how you're saying it, and who you're being are all in alignment, it's really powerful.
Very, very interesting, very powerful. And it's like there's something, when you start to talk about, like, who are you being, I was thinking about intention, like, what's your intention? And, like, for example, right now in this the coronavirus crisis, there's a quite famous guy in Brazil that owns, like, a very big hamburger, like, chain, and he went public defending, let's go back to work, and because the economy will surf way more, and, like, a lot of people will lose jobs and lose money, and a lot of deaths will come because of that, and it's better to have, like, and he was, like, very wasn't good, his communication. He needs a storytelling course for sure. And then what happened, that, like, he said something like that, 5,000 or 7,000 deaths are less than the damage to the economy. But what people hear when he says that is, like, for my understanding, is like, oh, you are telling me that 5,000 or 7,000 people dying is less important than your restaurant chain being open.
Yeah. Yeah, what people hear in that is lives don't matter.
Yes, life. It's your revenue is more important than my life. So it's like, I never go to your place again. So
And I just don't think, Miguel, like I can't emphasize this enough right now in these times of uncertainty. This idea of who you're being has never been more important than now. Like the world is starving for leadership right now.
Yes,
The
yes,
world is
yes.
starving for people to step up as leaders and lead and like inspire hope. So this who you're being is more on display right now than it ever has been. And so it's like, yeah, there's what you're trying to say, there's how you're saying it, but it's like, who are you being right now? Like, how are you showing up as a leader? The world is starving for leadership. And I believe right now, Miguel, that our message and our story is our declaration of our commitment to lead. Like our story and our message is our declaration of how we're going to show up right now in a time like this and who we're committed to being, right? And it's our leadership.
Yes, yeah. My view of the situation right now is exactly that. Like the one thing that's more scarce right now is leadership, and you're not going to, and nobody's going to save us if we don't be our leaders. So it's very very important. Can you give like what are you seeing like good examples right now of like clients of you, what you are doing to like what you are doing right now is an example. Like you are like you offer publicly to talk to people and provide value, and like we are talking right now because you offer that help. So but
Sure.
explain me, and I'm very grateful for that. So what explain me more, what can we talk about that?
So one of the things that I'm really encouraging our clients to do right now is, again, all of our clients, I'm encouraging them to share their founder's origin story about times in their business and times in their life where they faced uncertainty, they faced challenges they didn't think they could overcome, and yet they did. And I want them to share how they did it, because I think the world could really use those types of stories right now. And the other thing I realized, Miguel, just like what happened to you, I know that when my clients go do that, they're going to remember who they are. Like I'm telling them, hey, go do this for the benefit of your team and your employees. But I know that when they go back, because in times of uncertainty, Miguel, we forget who we are.
Yes.
We forget that we're overcomers. We forget that we can make it through anything. We forget that we're powerful.
It's
right?
not the first crisis.
No,
we are used to that. So
in a time like this, we really start to believe like that this is the reality of our like circumstances. Like it's never going to change, and like we forget who we are. So I want my clients going back and like, so what I'm encouraging all of our clients to do is I want you to go back and look at the past, but I only want you to find evidence for how much you matter and how much you make a difference and how strong you are. Because right now, a lot of people are looking at the past for like a lot of like guilt and shame and all the things they should have done differently and could have done, right? And so we're encouraging them to share that founder's origin story. And then we're also encouraging them to like think of this like an opportunity to, people are consuming more content than ever in the history of the world.
Yes.
And how do you show up and lead? And so we helped a company last week create what they're calling the resiliency series.
Resiliency series.
So they were going to send out, their plan, Miguel, was to send out an email a week for the next 8 weeks with a coronavirus update. And I was like, no, do not send out a coronavirus.
Only if you are the Minister of Health in the US, you should do that.
Yeah, it's like I can go find 9,000 websites right now that I don't want to be on to get like a coronavirus update. I said, why don't we share each week over the next 8 weeks, starting with some of your own stories in the company and then some outside, stories of resiliency, and just reminding people that like we're going to get through this, reminding people that they're resilient, and then saying like, if there's anything we can do to help you and your family, hit reply and we'll read every single email. We just helped a dentist who's closed down for 3 months. And he's like, I want to do something. We helped him create the Make Someone Smile challenge. So he's creating this challenge where every day he's going to post and hashtag. And then the challenges that his patients, so it's a way for him to interact and engage with his patients and his staff. They can nominate someone every single day that needs groceries, and then they'll make that happen. And all like, it's just like, but people aren't thinking of these things. People aren't thinking of showing up and leading and like And it has nothing to do with doing this in a time right now so that you can make more sales. Like that'll happen. Like if you show up and serve and lead, yeah, you're going to benefit, like whether now or later. But I believe, Miguel, that right now there's a lot of industries and a lot of companies and a lot of people that can't vote with their dollars right now. Like they're not in a position to vote with their dollars, but what they will vote with is their attention, their loyalty, and their brand equity. So that when this thing, comes back, when things do turn back around, they will be there ready to vote again with their dollars because of the brand equity and the loyalty. And it'll be those companies that showed up as the most powerful leaders that are going to like really capitalize on that.
It's very interesting. And are you what story are you telling right now? Like, what's your founder story that you tell?
Yeah, mine, like right now, part of like my demonstration of this, of like practicing what I preach, is this, right? Showing up and adding value and like to people that I'm connected with. The overcoming story that I have that I share with people is that, and I did this on a Facebook Live, which, by the way, I started a challenge on Facebook. I started a Facebook challenge called My Overcoming Story Challenge.
Wow.
So hashtag, and I'm just encouraging anyone that has the courage to go on Facebook and share a story of a time. So it's really 4 parts. What we're challenging people to do, Miguel, is identify a time in your life where you faced a challenge that you really, truly didn't believe you could overcome. Second, go back and revisit the emotions and the feelings that you had in that place. Because more than likely, they're the same emotions and feelings that most people are feeling now today, right? Fear, uncertainty, doubt, hopelessness. Then share what did you do to overcome it? Like, how did you overcome this thing that you really, truly didn't believe you could overcome? And then fourth, most importantly, Miguel, what did you realize about yourself?
Like lessons learned, like
not just lessons learned, but like I realized I am strong. I realized I can get through anything. I realized that I'm more powerful than I think I am. Because I think as human beings, we're really reluctant to say those types of things about ourselves and to acknowledge ourselves, right? And so that's the challenge. And so when I share mine, it's the story of, 10 years ago when my wife and I, we have 5 children now. At the time, we had 2 beautiful little boys, and we were separated, not separated like working on things, like separated, gonna get divorced. And I was at the lowest point in my life. I felt like a failure as a husband, as a father, as an entrepreneur. I owed people money for failed businesses. And it was the first time in my life I ever experienced hopelessness. Like I had some challenging times, but I'd never gotten to the place where I experienced hopelessness. And I truly felt like I was trapped in a brick room with no doors and no windows, like no possibility. And then my wife convinced me to go meet with one more marriage counselor. And the guy was amazing. Like changed my life, along with my wife's belief in other people. And and how I overcame that is he helped me see, Miguel, that I was the author of my story.
Wow.
Because I had kind of lost sight of that. I just thought that life was being done to me. And like, I didn't realize that I had actually been living a version of someone else's story for me. And so I took full responsibility for the first time in my life for everything. Like I'm 100% responsible. But I also realized that if I'm the author, not only am I responsible, but if I'm the author, then I can change the next chapter, right?
Yes. You
and
can
so
edit your life.
Yeah, like I can like just go create it. Like when human beings wake up to this idea that like, oh, I can just decide what I want to go do and like actually create it because I'm a powerful creator, like I'm the author. And so this little mantra for me, this challenge became like, but do I have the courage to pick up the pen? So that saying, pick up the pen, I've used it for the last 10 years because to me, what that signifies is when I pick up that pen, I'm showing the world and myself, like I'm committed to owning my story and I'm committed to like rewriting it. Like I have the pen, right?
Wow.
And now, fast forward today, we have 5 children. My wife is my hero. She's my best friend. Like we have a beautiful family. It's like, and so it reminds me that like, yeah, if you can do that, you can do anything, to myself, but then that message might inspire others. Right.
Wow.
And yes. Miguel, just for the sake of time, I probably should have been better at the very beginning of the call. And I'm literally working harder than I've ever worked. I hear a lot of people saying like, I'm doing so many of these trainings, but I probably have just another 5-10 minutes. I hope that's okay.
Yes. It's amazing what you shared. Thank you very much. Um, how are you selling right now, and how do you recommend people selling right now? Because it's like there's a lot of like, should I sell or shouldn't?
Totally. Should I sell? Should I give it away? Is it wrong to sell?
Yes, it's wrong to sell, and at the same time, if I don't sell, I don't make money. I have to close my company and like fire my employees and my team. So it's like,
Yeah.
what's the way you recommend selling right now?
So I'll tell you how I personally, because I wrestle with this because I have a coaching service and a coaching business, and you know, I'll just tell you kind of my thought process as I've thought a lot about this very thing personally, and I have a lot of clients looking to us for guidance on this. If I do sell and when I sell, and I have sold since the coronavirus has happened, I want to make sure that my mindset and my perspective is I'm not selling to capitalize on the coronavirus. I'm selling to capitalize on an ability to help people in a time of uncertainty. And those are two very different things for me, Miguel. And you've probably seen this. I've seen people that, like, from my perspective, they are using the coronavirus and COVID-19 to sell. And I think it's not being done in a really powerful way. And I think it's going to really cost them long-term with brand equity.
Yes.
I see others.
At the same time, people giving stuff away, for me, it's not the best thing to do. Give old stuff away or create a new thing that's way better for the right moment and charge for that. It would be cheaper to pay than to get something for free that's not very useful.
Yeah. So totally. And so there's this idea of like, I don't want to use the coronavirus to my advantage, but what I want to do is I want to show up and serve in a time of uncertainty. And I recognize that I have some things to sell to certain types of people that would really make a difference for them. And so I think the question we have to ask ourselves is what I'm selling or is what I want to sell, would it really make a difference for people right now in their lives? The other thing that I've thought about when I look at this is like this is a free training that I'm coming on and doing, right? Like, I didn't ask you to pay me for this, but what I trust also in a time like this is I can't just do these free trainings all day, every day, but I can do a number of them. And what I've realized and what I've trusted is that if there's something that I share in one of these trainings that a business or an entrepreneur says like, man, that would actually really serve me right now, I want to actually hire you. So I'm allowing the people that see the message and hear the message and say like, I saw someone recently that put out something that I thought was really good. And I know this entrepreneur and I believe that their intentions are good. And I believe they do have something to sell right now to certain businesses that like would make a real difference for them. It's for the benefit of the business. But what he said in his post was, he said, look, here's what we normally charge. We're offering an extreme discount right now to help people. And here's what we're charging now. And here's the thing. If you have to make the decision between buying groceries for your family or this, go buy groceries for your family. But if you have put yourself in a position to still be able to invest in yourself and your business at this time, and you feel that's important, then this would be amazing for you.
Wow. Very good. Very, thank you very much. Like, last question, just to finish, is like, how can I like help you, or how can people find you? And what's your final message, like a takeaway message? So we finish, and thank you very much. It's very, very useful. I have like 2 pages of notes, and my mind is bowling right now. Like, it's like,
yeah. No, one of the ways that you can help me, Miguel, is like, you and anyone watching this, we are offering a lot of like complimentary, like story messaging strategy audits right now. So we have companies that are coming on saying like, look, here's what we're thinking about sharing over the next 6 to 8 weeks. Here's what we're currently sharing. And we'll audit that, look at it and say, I think this looks great. I wouldn't do this at all. And at the end, if they say, well, can we engage you right now? And like, while times are some of those are happening. And at other times we just give them feedback and they run with it. So one of the ways that you can help us is if you know companies or entrepreneurs that right now, like, messaging and what to say is top of mind, I believe, we're doing an amazing job of serving people in that.
I would suggest you make an assessment for that. Like,
yeah.
Be very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then people can find us at thecampfireeffect.com is our website. the final message I'll leave you with is I believe right now as entrepreneurs and organizations, you should be putting out more content than ever in the history of your company, but from a place of leading people, from a place of really serving and adding value. And I can just promise you that that will pay off. And I can't say it'll pay off now or the future or when or how, but it will if you show up and lead like the world is starving for leadership.
Yes, Chris, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure and real honor to have you here and to learn from you, and especially like putting out content that tell stories about your struggles in the past and how you overcome that. So it's like a very makes like total sense and make total sense all the time, but right now is even more important. So thank you very much. It was like a real pleasure to have you here. So
thank you, Miguel. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Muito massa isso aqui, meu Deus, que legal.